What's up guys, Thana here bringing you another healing guide. Today I'd like to cover Astrologians as that is the job that I main in both PvP and PvE. Also, I know the job's ins and outs best from all the three healers, so I'm most comfortable covering this class in specific. I feel like Astrologians are the most consistent of all the three healers because with a Diurnal you have steady hearts pulsing through the whole group all the time. And they're pretty strong, especially if you throw Collective Unconscious in there and get the heart on one or two people. You can extend that with time dilation. That's really strong. It also has in Nocturnal, it has good mobile shields that you can spam on people, and you can really effectively keep one person alive from burst and whatever. But if you only focus on spamming shields, you will drain your MP pretty fast. So that is one thing I suggest avoiding. Also, you have Essential Dignity, which is like this crazy 40-second cooldown instant OGCD heal that can scale up to 1000 potency, which is pretty crazy. You could get someone up from 20% to full health if it crits. You can also, with Essential Dignity, you can plan around baiting people with if you have attunement up. So what you'd probably be doing is bait people into focusing you, or when you notice they swap onto you, you get yourself low intentionally, attunement, and then just cancel it, or when it runs out, throw Essential Dignity on yourself, and you're fine. Honestly though, I feel like the consistency does come with a price though, as Astrologians don't really have that much utility outside of Celestial Opposition, which is like an AoE stun that extends all of your buffs for 10 seconds. And that in and of itself is good and bad, because you can't control the stun, so it can mess up with your team's DRs, aka diminishing returns. Also, utility-wise, White Mage has the best utility, which in and of itself can earn you momentum and kills. And also from Scholar you have Miasma with the healing reduction debuff. Astrologians don't really have anything like that. You really only have one slow and then Celestial Opposition. So all in all, I'd say Astrologians are the most consistent of all the three healers because it's really straightforward and you're only there to really heal. Aside from your cards, which can have a huge impact on the match both in your performance and your team's performance. Also, be sure to throw some cheeky Stellas here and there to annoy the enemy team. What I'm covering today are your stats, what I use and what I've had the most success with, your PvP skills, how they synergize with Astrologian, and what I recommend, your cooldowns, how to use them, how they work, and some tips on how I utilize them, your cards, which are a huge part of Astrologians, whether it's PvP or PvE, and then kiting, which in my last video I covered positioning, and this is kind of like a subject that you want to work on if the enemy healer is positioning well to draw them out of position. So let's get into the guide. Alright, so before anything else, I want to cover your crosscast skills because if you're straight out of PvE, there are two skills that you will never use in PvP, and those are Cleric Stance and Arrow. Cleric Stance, first off, is disabled in PvP, so basically it's a dead slot. Replace it with Surecast or Blizzard 2. Second is Arrow. It really tickles people and you're never really DPSing all that much anyway, so that's also a waste of slot. Replace it with Surecast or Blizzard 2, whichever you replaced Cleric Stance with. Okay, so why these two is because Blizzard 2 gets you some breathing room that you need from the tank and melee if they're focusing on you, and Surecast lets you get a free uninterruptible heal, but damage heal off if you really need it. With that bit out of the way, Lego! Okay, first section, your stats. What I personally use is Crit Piety. I guess this is a remnant from the days when Nocturnal used to be the better sect by far, because those crit shields really help you with your healing a lot and keeping people alive. But now that Diurnal has kind of switched over to being the more versatile sect, I didn't really change anything around when I started practicing it and using it more, so I didn't change my gear around. And I've never really felt like I needed to though. The crit heals do help a lot. You might not need to cast 2 heals on a person who needs a lot of healing. That crit heal is enough. So you might save MP there, for example. Also, since I've gotten so used to expecting those crits, I react to it fast enough that if 2 people need healing, I switch over to the second target the second I see that big number and the exclamation mark. Pite is pretty much the main stat for all of the 3 healers, and you should have it on every single piece of your gear. The main thing that is holding you back and limiting you in a long drawn out match is your MP. This might be different in a light party situation where you can rely on your bard or your machinist to provide you MP song, report, or mana song. And in PvE you can really plan out your MP rotation and MP region rotation, so it's not much of a problem. But because in PvP it's so much react based that you can't guarantee you will have enough MP in those crucial moments in the match, you really want to have as much as possible to at least decrease the chance that you will run out in those moments. I've also recently heard the argument for Pite's spell speed because of the rise of Diurnal. So spell speed increases your hot ticks, and that would mean more consistent bigger heals pulsing through the group all the time. In theory, I guess that would decrease the amount of healing that you need to do actively, but I can't comment on too much if it works in practice because I don't have a gear piece for every single slot that will be Pite's spell speed, so I can't start testing it too much yet. I've started the early testing, but if someone with more experience and maybe the math behind whether if it's viable or not would want to chime in and actually inform people of that, because I can't comment on that too much. So in summary, I use Crit Piety, I've had a lot of success with it, and you might want to try that out, but also please do test around, see which works for you the best. If Pite's spell speed is the way to go, that I wouldn't really recommend. It's been kind of bad, this expansion, for a lot of classes, so I wouldn't go for that. Alright, we're getting to the PvP skills. I think there's only a couple of things here that we need to point out with Astrologian in mind. One of them would be equanimity. I feel like it's not as important for Astrologians as it is for the other healers, because we're the mobile healer, we have more tools to heal on the go, light speed, swift cast, and aspect of benefit. But it's still very useful to have in those situations where you really need to plant your ass down, heal a target who is getting focused, whether it's you or someone else, and you're being interrupted a lot by damage. The second Astrologian specific thing is our own PvP skill, which is called Retrogradation. What it does is it's an AoE heal around you that takes away 1 debuff from your allies and takes away 1 buff from your enemies. So it's useful for the situations when you see the enemy team buff up and you want to try and take one of those important buffs, what they use to burst, off of them. Against the Summoner Burst, if he gets the Bane off on everyone, takes away at least one of those debuffs, so it's not as bad. If you get mass bound by Black Mages or Summoners, if your team is going for a kill and the opposing team has a Monk and they use Axe Kick and everyone gets pacified, they can't do anything. It's very useful for that as well. And also clutch heal saves, although I wouldn't recommend using that for those situations because it's really a small heal, so it probably won't save someone who is just about to die. But like everything in PvP, it's really situational, so use your own judgment and do use it if it's really to save someone's life. How the buff removal thing by retrogradation, like abilities like One Punching Glory Slash, for example, work is kind of unclear to me. It used to be that the most recent buff on the enemy would get removed, but it doesn't seem to work that way. I've talked to a couple of people, so if someone knows exactly how it works, please do let us know. But you can still try and be cheeky with it and try and steal someone's Raging Strikes or Blood Blood. Then we get into cooldowns. Astrologian is going to use them a bit more often and less sparingly if you focus on getting enhanced spears or just basic spears on yourself, but we'll cover that later when I cover the cards. For now, let's just focus on your cooldowns, how to use them, and how they work. First off, disable. It's basically a flat 10% decrease on the targeted person's abilities. It's best used on the ranged DPS, basically Black Mage, Summoner, Bard and Machinist, especially Bard and Machinist because they have a really short window of burst that really melts face. And you can see it coming with their cast bars. Because disable only lasts 6 seconds, it's best used in those scenarios because you can preemptively pretty well predict when it's coming, and you can use it just when they use that combo to deal that short window of burst. Not really useful for melees because they have a bit longer window of burst and high damage pressure, so 6 seconds won't really do that much. Sinister is really good with spread pressure healing because it gives 40% of your original heal on someone else to the Sinister target, so it effectively heals 2 people at the same time. It's also very good at high damage single target pressure because it gives that 40% extra heal on top of your original heal. So basically it's 140% heal on that single target. It also increases your healing magic potency by 20%. So it's a very good habit to get hearts on people before the effect ends. So you'll have super powered hearts running on people, so you'll save mana and you don't need to heal as much afterwards. Lightspeed, which is really strong when you want to kite the people who are focusing on you around, because it basically gives you 10 seconds of instant heals. It's also very strong in the situations when some of your team members are being focused and the tank or someone else is sticking to you and interrupting you a lot, so you'll still get heals off and you can run around corners, run on walls, whatever. It's also useful depending on the situation if you need a lot of instant heals for a longer period of time to extend the duration by 10 seconds with Celestial Opposition, which effectively gives you 20 seconds of instant heals. Time Dilation, which increases the beneficial status effects that you have given to a single party member by 15 seconds. I mainly use and I recommend using this on your HOTS, Collective Unconscious, Expected Helios, and Expected Benefic, because those 3 HOTS combined makes for a really strong hot ticks on a single target, so you can effectively ignore them for a bit and focus on healing someone else. Out of personal preference, I don't really use them on cards. I don't feel like that 15 seconds is going to get that much value out of it. Collective Unconscious is basically the bubble, and we don't really focus on the defensive buff that you get when you're inside the bubble in PvP because people move around a lot and you can't guarantee that people will stay inside of it. Mainly we'll focus on the hot that you will try and stick on people before they move out. Essential Dignity we already covered earlier, so I don't think we need to cover it twice. So let's move on to your PvP cooldowns. First up, Focalization. It's basically your Fire and Forget magic resistance up buff that you can give to your team, mainly used to preemptively defend against Black Mage or Summoner Burst. You want to get it before Summoner uses their dots, because if you use it after, it won't actually decrease the dot ticks. Equanimity is a cooldown that you use to cast uninterrupted for 10 seconds, 15 seconds if it's traded. Stuns and silences will still interrupt your casts, but the damage that goes over the health threshold to interrupt casts, those won't. Retrogradation, we also covered earlier, don't think we need to cover that either twice. Purify, mainly I'd say save it on yourself because you know exactly when you need to get out of something like a sleep. Of course, depending on the situation, you want to use it on your teammate if they have like 15 debuffs, including a full swing, and you notice that they're not getting them off by themselves. Also, just as a general tip, you can sit through full sleeps, because if your teammates aren't taking damage, you don't need to get out of it. You can just sit through it and wait for the second sleep that is going to happen, purify that one, and heal your teammates if they need it. And then the next sleep that you get will be a really insignificant duration. Attunement is basically a defensive cooldown that you use to get some breathing room. It avoids all of the attacks that are thrown at you, except for LB and if someone has a Hawk's Eye on, but it also decreases the damage that those abilities as well do. Dots that have been applied before it will still tick through it. So as a good habit, I recommend that you get HOTS on yourself preemptively before you're planning to use it. Also, as a general tip, I recommend that you get a macro for yourself that I will put somewhere on the screen to cancel it early so you don't always need to sit in it for the full duration. Next and last one is mana draw, which is pretty self-explanatory with the trait that you will be 100% of the time taking. It restores 50% of your mana, so basically use it when you have about 40 or 50% somewhere between mana, so you'll get the most out of it. That wraps up your cooldowns, and next up is cards, which are basically the main attraction of Astrologians. And like I said in the beginning, they can have a huge impact on the match, at least the potential to. For example, your DPS might not even need to pop their cooldowns to kill a target because you can throw an enhanced balance, which is 35% extra damage on everything they do without cooldowns. So they might not even need to pop their cooldowns in the beginning. Really strong on something like Body Machinist, who can really drop someone from 100 to 10 or 20% in about 1 or 2 seconds, and then add 35% more potency on everything on top of that. That's pretty insane. Also, you can use it on your melee DPS, whether it be before or after their buffs have ended, to extend the high damage pressure window where the healer will be really pressed to actually heal the target that they're focusing on. But the absolute biggest impact and the best value that you can get out of the cards is enhanced spear on yourself. Even normal spear will do. But what that lets you do is cut down 20 or enhanced spear 30% of your cooldowns of your abilities. And that is nuts. You can decrease something like mana draw or attunement, their cooldown, by about a minute. From 3 seconds to 2 minutes, which lets you basically use them a lot more. All of your other cooldowns apply to this as well. So you can respond to many more situations. You can defend yourself more effectively. You can outlast the other healer a lot more if you can get those enhanced spears on yourself. But why do I think that just going for the spears is the best choice? Because you can always guarantee when you use it on yourself that you will get best value out of it. When you use something like balance on someone, for example in solo queue, you can't always guarantee that they will use it most effectively. But in something like Light Party, where you can communicate this, a 30% balance might and will be better than always going for spear on yourself. Although even if mainly your card draws revolve around balance and spear, the other cards aren't exactly useless either, but they're much less important. For example, Ewer, you really want to redraw or discard it immediately, unless if you're about to run out of MP in like 2 or 3 casts. Then I use it on myself, but otherwise no. Bowl, obviously, if someone is taking heavy damage that you don't have cooldowns for to deal with, or on yourself when you're getting focused. Really though, just Royal Road it because you want to aim for those enhanced spears and balances. Arrow I don't personally use much because I think, and it's definite that balance has a bigger impact on the DPS's damage than Arrow. I guess I could see the Arrow being useful in getting more GCDs in so that you have bigger chances or more chances to interrupt a healer's casts. But I think that balance with its increased potency on everything, every single one of your GCDs as melee has the more potential to interrupt the cast. So I think it's still better like balance compared to Arrow. And Spire can just basically go and get deleted. It's useless. Overall, in my opinion, you should definitely focus on getting those enhanced spears in yourself to maximize the use out of your cooldowns and everything. You can't always guarantee, especially in solo queue, that the enhanced balance will be useful for the DPS. It will definitely apply extra pressure to the opposing team, but whether if it's actually going to make or break the team is a different thing. If you're in organized play in Light Party, then definitely aim for both, because they're really useful when you can communicate that to your team. Okay, and pretty much the last section that we're getting into is kiting. This really applies to every single healer, but I think Astrologian excels at it because they are the mobile healer. They have the tools to stay mobile for a long time with swift cast, light speed, and expected benefit. Basically, the point of kiting is to, when you are being focused by the tank and the melee duo, you want to kite them out of position, lure them to behind a wall far away from their healer so they destroy their healer's line of sight, therefore dragging the healer out of their positions and walls and whatever cover they have. This means that they're much easier to swap to by your team and CC, interrupt their heals, whatever, to get a kill. Pretty much the point of this is to undo every single tip about positioning that I gave in my last video, but do it on the opposing healer with your positioning and your kiting. Trust me on this, if you start practicing this and doing it successfully, you will make your tanks and DPS's life much, much easier. So it will be an overall smoother and better experience for everyone. Like I said earlier, the way you can lure the enemy melee combo, for example, out of position is if you are healing someone else effectively, they will get frustrated and switch to you when they notice that you're free. At that moment, you need to go behind walls, go far away from the action so that they follow you and kind of not heal yourself as effectively. Let yourself go low health so they tunnel on you, seeing, oh, he's getting low health, we might get a kill, attune, and then they'll be, oh, we're out of position. It basically forces the healer out of their position and their little hidey holes and makes it a lot easier for your team to manage them. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up the guide. I hope you found it useful this time as well. Be sure to check out my last guide about basic healing tips and whatever, and how to get started. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for the overwhelming support that I got on my first video. I was pretty nervous how it was going to be received, but it was like 99% positive. But I also really want to thank the people who gave constructive criticism, what to improve on, what to work on. This wasn't as clearly as explained. This was missing some info. This was a bit incorrect. So thank you for everything and keep it coming. Also, be sure to drop a comment down below about what you want to see next, what you want me to cover, suggestions, whatever. All the good stuff. You know, all the good stuff, boys. Anyway, thank you for watching. Hope you found this useful. Do subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one.